Time Walk with Me.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Time Walk with me. I'm the Time Walker, and those of you who follow the community tab on my channel know that I've been working on a Rashmi and Ragavan deck. I chose the colors first and then polled my audience about which tamer or commander they would most want to see. Rashmi and Ragavan pulled ahead before it became a tie between them and Xeris the Writhing Storm, so I chose Rashmi and Ragavan. For 4 mana, one of which is generic and the other are green, blue, and red, you get a 2/4 Elf Monkey. When you cast your first spell during your turn, you get a treasure token. That's a pretty cool ability right there, but there's more. You also get to exile the top card of target opponent's library. That's also pretty cool, but there's even more, if you can believe it. If the mana cost of the spell is less than the number of artifacts that you control, you can cast it for free, and if it's not, you can cast it for not free. And if you can't or don't want to cast it, or if it's a land, it just stays exiled. Tokens. These cards give me artifact tokens, which help me to free cast whatever I exile with Rashmi and Ragavan. Unexpected Windfall. This one doubles as a draw card, but it's mostly here to give me treasures. Treasure Chest. The hope is for this to give me 5 treasures, but if I get the 3 cards and 3 life, or get to tutor out an artifact and put it on the battlefield, that's fine too. It's all well worth the risk of losing a measly 3 life. Marching Duodrone. This is a group-huggy way of getting treasure tokens, but I'm not sure my opponents will appreciate it. Sai, Master Thopterist. This gives tokens and draws me cards. Goldvein Pick. Captain Lannery Storm. Diamond Pickaxe. It's not just in Minecraft anymore. Hit the Motherlode. This automatically comes with the Caverns of Ixalan bundle, and I also got one in one of the packs. Mana-wise, it's pricey and tricky for a 3-color deck because it requires 3 red mana, but the payoff is pretty good. Spiteful Banditry. This card is great if an opponent is playing a deck that relies on sacrificing creatures. Otherwise, you'll just have to kill their creatures yourself, like by wiping the board with this spell. Fey Offering. This passively gives you 3 tokens just for casting 2 spells. Thopter Spy Network. And this passively gives you 1 token every turn as long as you control an artifact. It also helps you draw cards. Mere Battlesphere. For 7 mana, this increases your artifact count by 5, making it much more likely that you'll be able to cast whatever you exile with Rashmi and Ragavan. Witch's Oven. Is a creature of yours about to die in combat? Eat it. Mere Propagator. Returned from the wilds. If you need another land, this will tutor for it as well as make a token. If you don't need the land, then you get 2 tokens. Only one of them will be an artifact, but that's what the Witch's Oven is for. Prying Blade. Even if the creature using this equipment loses the battle, you'll still get a treasure. Draw. Ichor Wellspring. This artifact replaces itself when you cast it, and gives you another card when it dies. All you have to do is figure out a way to kill it. Clan Crafter. This is one way to kill Ichor Wellspring, or any other artifact you can spare. Hatching Plans. Once you pop this enchantment, you draw 3 cards. Thoughtcast. There's a good chance this will end up costing you only 1 blue mana, and drawing 2 cards is good even in the late game. It's basically Ancestral Recall. Urban Evolution. Drawing 3 cards and playing an additional land is kinda like taking an extra turn. Eureka Moment. This is better than Urban Evolution because it costs 1 less and it's an instant. The other difference is that it allows you to put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield, which is different from playing an additional land. It probably won't make any real difference, but it is technically different, which is the best kind of different. Opt. It replaces itself in your hand for 1 blue mana, but it also gives you the opportunity to not take the top card. Quick Study. 2 cards for 3 mana is a decent rate, especially at instant speed. You can leave 3 mana open at the end of your turn to make people nervous, and then use that mana to draw the cards just before your turn starts. Spare Supplies. In some ways, this is better than Ichor Wellspring because it includes its own sacrifice outlet. Removal. Ground Assault. You can use this to kill something dead as long as you have enough lands. Counterspell. The only thing worse than having your spell countered is seeing 2 blue mana open on an opponent's battlefield and not knowing if they have this card in their hand. Steel Hellkite. This creature will probably become a target for removal, but until it's killed, it is terrifying in its ability to repeatedly destroy permanents. Ravenform. I like that this can target a creature or an artifact, it exiles rather than destroys, and you can foretell it to protect it and make it cheaper. Over the Edge. This can get rid of an enchantment, which is always nice, or it can draw you cards or make your creatures bigger. It's very versatile. Thrashing Brontodon. A 3/4 for 3 mana is a pretty good deal, and its sacrifice ability can save you from a nasty artifact or enchantment. Friendly Rivalry. This kind of depends on you having big creatures out, but there are a few of those in here. And the creature they do their power and damage to doesn't damage them back. Rewind. If you can pay for it, it's a free counterspell. Fade into Antiquity. I like removal that gets around indestructible. Hexproof is still a problem though. Introduction to Annihilation. 5 mana seems like a high mana cost, but it's all generic, so it's not actually that hard to scrounge up, especially with green in the deck. Ancient Grudge. This destroys 2 artifacts. That's pretty cool. Ice Out. It's a slightly more expensive counterspell unless you have something to sacrifice, like perhaps Eager Wellspring? Spider Food. This turns an artifact, enchantment, or flying creature into food. Yum. Mana. This deck has no Soul Ring. This is partly because all of mine are in decks already, but it's also because I don't tend to put it into decks that have green in them. Green is good at ramping, so green decks don't need the fast mana. Joyra's Familiar. This is like a land that gives you a colorless mana for every artifact, legendary, and saga you cast. It's mostly here to make artifacts cheaper. Artificer Class. This gives you a colorless mana for your first artifact spell, but at level 3, it copies one of your artifacts at the end of your every turn. It'll take a total of 10 mana to get there, but over several turns it's not that bad, especially with green in the deck. Foundry Inspector. Again, this cheapens your artifact spells. Glittering Frost. I like using land enchantments for mana ramp. Enchantments and lands are both more difficult to deal with in Commander, and your opponents will probably be more worried about what you're using that mana to cast. Svella Ice Shaper. I really like this guy. He gives you mana rocks. And the rocks he gives you are snow artifacts, so that can fit into a snow theme too. That's not what I'm doing in this deck, but the versatility is there. Commander Sphere. This isn't that great except that you can sacrifice it to draw a card once the 1 mana doesn't mean as much to you. Spelunking. This gets you a whole turn ahead as far as lands go, and it makes your tap lands into dual lands. Skyclave Relic. If you pay the 6, you get 3 indestructible mana rocks. Grafted Growth. This can help out your mana base, and it also beefs up a creature when it enters the battlefield. Maraleaf Pixie. It's a mana dork. Nuff said. Birds of Paradise. This is a really good mana dork. Draconic Disciple. This is a mana dork that becomes a dragon later. Arboreal Grazer. I like that this makes a halfway decent blocker as well as allowing you to put out an extra land on your first turn. Ruby Daring Tracker. I like that this is a cheap mana dork with haste, and when you have a big creature out, it becomes a halfway decent attacker too. Prophetic Prism. This replaces itself in your hand and helps you color fix. Other. Arbiter of the Ideal. This can give you free stuff. It makes me realize that Sensei's Divining Top isn't in this deck. I only have 2 plus a really nice proxy. Maybe it's time to invest in more proxies. Urza's Command. This does so many cool things, I had to put it in the Other section because putting in the Draw, Tokens, or Mana section didn't seem fair. It does everything I want to do in this deck, even create a huge artifact creature to hit people with. Shimmermere. This is great for scaring people out of doing things to you because they think you have mana open for a counterspell. Mythos of Illuna. You never know when you'll need a good clone. Djinn of Wishes. This is another free stuff card. It gives you 3 sort of free things, along with being a 4/4 with flying. Hellkite Igniter. This deck wants to have a lot of artifacts out, which is perfect for this creature, who gets stronger with every artifact I control. You can even use the ability multiple times in a turn, so really, this is a bit of a win condition. Lantern of Insight. This card was suggested by Ragnarok633 along with a couple of expensive cards that I didn't feel like picking up. It helps you decide which opponent to target with Rashmi and Ragavan's ability. So, very good suggestion there. Ravenous Tyrannosaurus. This is here just to be a big creature. I got it from the new Ixalan bundle, and it's pretty cool. Wandering Archaic / Explore the Vastlands. This is good in any deck. It copies your opponent's instants and sorcery spells unless they pay extra. That means your spells cost more to counter. Heck, you can counter spells that don't even target your spells if you want. Elvish Archivist. Once each turn, this guy can watch an artifact enter your battlefield and get big. He can also watch enchantments enter your battlefield and draw you cards. He can only do each one once per turn, but that's pretty rad, I'd say. Wildwood Mentor. Since this deck likes putting tokens onto the battlefield, this is a great creature to take advantage of it, and it beefs up another creature whenever it attacks. Lands. I put in as many artifact lands as I could, since Rashmi and Ragavan like it when I have a lot of them out. So we got Islands, Mountains, and Forests, Great Furnace, Silver Bluff Bridge, Izzet Guildgate, Phyrexia's Core. This is a good sacrifice outlet for Eker Wellspring or any treasures you don't value more highly than your life. Frontier Bivouac, Simic Guildgate, Seat of the Synod, Command Tower, Evolving Wilds, Terramorphic Expanse, Thriving Bluff, Thriving Grove, Thriving Isle, Slagwoods Bridge, Tangle Pool Bridge, Tree of Tales, and Gruul Guildgate. So that is it. That is Rashmi and Ragavan. What do you think? Tell me good things, and I'll see you next time.